In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Please be seated. A woman named Laura Newman taught me much about how to live. Laura was a gifted journalist, a brilliant writer, and a doctoral fellow at Carnegie Mellon University. She chaired the wildly popular Riverfest in Little Rock, and she still found time to volunteer at St. Vincent's Hospital. But it was not her external credentials that spoke to me. It was the way that Laura lived the last 7 years of her life that have changed the way that I hope to live mine. At age 48, she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. Her first impulse was to feel anger toward God. After all, she felt she had done all the right things. All her life, Laura had studied hard and worked hard. She had given back to her community in countless ways. She regularly attended and served her church. Laura kept asking the question, what have I done to deserve this? In today's Old Testament lesson from Job, God tells us that Job is a blameless and upright man who persists in his integrity. But Satan makes a bet with Job. Makes a bet with God. Satan bets that if enough storms and winds of upheaval whirl around and through the life of Job, he will waver and break and even curse the face of God. In essence, Satan is betting that the integrity of Job is nothing more than a house of cards. And suddenly the storms do bring havoc to Job's life and world. In the course of one day, he loses his thousands of heads of livestock, his many servants, and all 10 of his children. And now, to top it all off, he's been inflicted with painful sores all over his skin from head to toe. Notice that his affliction is a skin disorder. I believe that is significant in the story. Our skin is the outer layer that the world sees, but appearances can be deceiving. Sometimes beauty is skin deep and does not match the negative character traits underneath. Job's skin disorder serves as a metaphor to strip away the barrier between the outer and the inner person. Job wrestled with the questions with which we wrestle. If our outward circumstances change drastically, will we still hold on to who we are at the core of our being? Even in adversity, will our outward behavior still reflect our inner belief in a loving God? When things are going well, it is easier for us to wear the mask of pretense. We wish to appear virtuous so that God and the world will continue to reward us. But when the storms and winds bear down on us, the masks are ripped off our faces. Our innermost souls are now bare to God and everyone. We become in touch with a greater reality, the reality that a good life is not about reward or punishment. It is instead about living faithfully, step by step, in a murky, often unfair world. Back to Laura Newman, the woman I mentioned earlier. Laura felt deep anger toward God after her diagnosis. But as she prayed and she reflected and she talked to friends, she began to see that there is a randomness to cancer. Laura's illness was not due to anything she did, but she discovered that what was not random was God's response of care for her and the outpouring of love she received from her community. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, Laura devoted the final 7 years of her life to discovering and sharing her inner beauty, her eternal beauty that came from the divine spark within her. Laura made a pledge to remain faithful to God no matter what. In fact, she began to look for ways that her journey with cancer may bring her greater depth in her faith journey with God. Laura reached out in love to those who were newly diagnosed to share her story of living with this disease and to give them hope. She became more faithful in service as a member of her church and found and offered joy. Laura discovered gifts that she didn't know she had. For needlepoint, for playing the handbells. These two practices in communion with others were a source of peace for her, the peace that she radiated and she shared. She appreciated all creatures, great and small, through her life with Louie, her precious dog, with whom she shared a ministry of pet therapy for hospice patients. She loved to entertain me and other guests by having Louie break dance on the kitchen floor. I have no idea how she taught him to do that or how he learned to do it. I could tell Louie knew that it brought Laura joy. Near the end of her journey, Laura told me that regardless of the outcome, her faith was no longer based on reward or punishment. It was based on constant and never-ending faithfulness. Faithfulness to the God whom she loved and served, the God who was always faithful to her and who would always love her no matter what. Her beauty was much more than skin deep. Her beauty radiated from the love of God at her innermost core. While she at last died in peace, Laura showed me how to live fully, how to live faithfully. I can still picture her smile and laugh as she watched Louie break dance on the kitchen floor. I still picture her dancing with God.